So let's continue with the valuation. Remember, we calculated the cash flows of the first 3 years. To do that, we started off with the data that have tax effects. And because tax effects are based on accounting, we started off with the accounting data with the blue-black background. And afterwards, once we have the tax effects, we converted them into cash flows. So to do that, we reversed depreciation, and then we showed the capex movements, and we added the changes in working capital, and that gives us the free cash flows. So the free cash flows, that were those numbers, and they were discounted with the weighted average cost of capital that was calculated here. So if you want to review how we did it, you can have a look at the previous video. Basically, what we do, or what we saw in valuation in this last course, was the second phase of discounted cash flow. So after we have the foreseeable future, we have to add an element of perpetuity, and that's what I'm going to explain now. So for perpetuity, you start off the same way. So you start off again with the accounting numbers, just to get to an after tax result, and then again correct for the cash flows. But typically, since that perpetuity year is expected to remain constant, or at least at a constant growth, there will be typically no change in working capital, and your capex investment will be exactly the same as your depreciation. So you will always see that the capex investment is the negative of your depreciation reversal. Just check the exercises we saw in class, and it also happens there. And that assumes that you keep on investing at the same rate as you did in the last year. So that gives you a free cash flow for the perpetuity period. So I'll put that. Okay, so that's the 22. With the 22, we're gonna divide it by the WACC minus growth rate, and that'll give us 408. Wait, so I forgot to mention the growth rate. So the perpetuity growth rate is, let's say, 1%. Okay, so now let's have a look at the formula. So as I said, the terminal value is the free cash flow for perpetuity, 22, divided by WACC, 5%, minus growth rate, 1%. That gives us 502. This is, however, the present value of the terminal value at the end of year 3, and that's why we have to discount it to year 0, and we do that by dividing it by 1 plus WACC to the power of 3. I put number 3 in red here because a very frequent mistake is that people discounted it as if it were a fourth period. But just remember, it has to be discounted with the same number of years as your last cash flow. So that gives us this number, right? The net present value is 411. You can also call, or in general, people call that the total enterprise value, right? So we can say total enterprise value here is 411. To that, you can add the non-productive assets, if there are any. Say if a company has a piece of land that it's not using in its production, and that's part of the company, well, you have to add it because it's not reflected by the cash flows. And if the company has any debt, to arrive to the equity value, you have to deduct it from the total enterprise value. And that'll give us the total equity value of this company. So this discounted cash method is based on a million assumptions. And just to do a reality check, a back of the envelope check, as Mr. Camilo calls it, you can compare this with multiples. So just apply the same multiples to your company as appear in the industry or as appear to competitors. And that'll give you a sense whether your valuation makes sense or whether it's too high or too low. That's all.